How you doing, everyone? Thanks for tapping into another episode of The Gifted Gab. I have my guy Marc-Anthony in, stop by, fellow comedian, actor, and MC. We talked a lot. We got into some of the issues within the comedic space, cancel culture, performing comedy during a lockdown, some of the adjustments he's made, and what he has going on now in the future. Am I missing anything?
Some Uncle Doug stuff.
Uncle Doug stuff. Oh, shout out Uncle Doug, man.
Shout out to Uncle Doug.
That election's coming soon, man. Make sure you get your votes in. So, yeah, it was a good one. It was a good one. Make sure to tap in, like, follow, subscribe, and stay tuned. We here.
Love it.
You are now tuned in to The Gifted Gab.
We're live.
We're live.
Mark, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. This is fantastic.
I appreciate that. It's good to have you stop by. I know we meant to do this a little bit earlier, but,
Yeah.
How's everything going?
It's going good, man. I mean, I can't complain. We made it out of the pandemic. I'm doing shows again. The content's on the up and up. I can't complain, man. A lot of people
I like that.
wish that they could do something they love. So
100%. 100%. To do it full time too. That's different.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky that my wife pays the bills. You know what I mean? So I've got a sugar mama at the moment.
Shout out to you. There's a lot of guys that want to be like you. I'm gonna say that right now. There's a lot of guys out here
that wouldn't say that.
that would like to be like you.
Oh,
Yeah.
true. Okay, nice. Yeah. Boom. Call back to the Malocchio deflection.
Oh, these folks. Actually, give some context to what that means for the viewers.
Oh, right. Yeah. I forgot we weren't recording that.
Yeah.
So basically, I'll go right into the camera. My nonna does this stuff called Malocchio. It's removing the evil eye from people. And this is a symbol that Italians use to deflect any hate or jealousy or anything like that. So if you ever see an Italian doing this, they're just deflecting your hate so that they don't internalize it and you don't bring down the energy.
Bring down the energy in the room.
Yeah.
I learn something new every day. So yeah, speaking on getting out of the pandemic, I wanted to ask, how was being in the comedic space during that whole process? Because I'm sure obviously you weren't doing shows.
Yeah.
You weren't touring. Like, how was that for you?
It wasn't terrible. Like, I found a couple ways to adapt. Like, I was doing a lot of virtual shows. Like, I was doing the Zoom shows and I have this side company called Funny Man Inc. where I do corporate gigs and like private functions. I run stuff through my company and whatnot. So I kind of built this like virtual comedy club per se, ran it through Zoom, studio space, kind of like this with good lighting, a camera operator, stuff like that, and really kind of have good comedy on Zoom. I'm like, people are at home, people want shows, there's only so many Netflix specials they can pump out right now during this pandemic. So I found a way to adapt with that, which was good because, they were, everyone was working from home. Like, so all these companies wanted like, hey, we got to entertain our staff at home. So can you like come perform at our lunch or something like that? Like virtually, I was like, hell yeah, man. I would invite comics over. We'd be socially distanced, mic covers and whatever. I got a nice, beautiful backdrop and 2 camera angles, made it look sick. So that was good. And then, after making sourdough bread for like 8 months and gaining weight, I was like, fuck it, let's
Let me get outside.
Yeah, I was like, let me do some content and whatnot. So I switched to content, joined with my buddy Austin, the guy who does those Justin Trudeau videos, and we started a YouTube channel, and shit just started going well with that.
You guys had the funniest impersonation of Uncle Doug and Trudeau, man. To this day, bro, that makes me laugh. Like every time you had that one skit, I think it was shot in like a warehouse.
Oh yeah,
last year. That one had me rolling, man.
Yeah, nice. Thank you, bro. Yeah, everyone was loving that shit. I mean, Doug just called me the other day and says we're gonna collab soon. So something. Hopefully. Doug Ford. We'll see.
Yeah. How do you reach out to you? Like email or some shit? Like,
so he gives out his phone numbers at these like events, I guess. So like a bunch of people reached out to me. Was like, yo, the guys, we got his phone number like on the screen. Like, you want it? I'm like, of course I want it.
Duh.
Yeah. So I would just text it all the time. Be like, hey man, let's it's me, the guy who impersonates you. If we can collab, take a photo, anything, right? Like people will love it. And then his assistant reached out and was like, listen, we're getting your messages. He's very busy. Just let me try and get something, like at least a call for you. And then he called me from an unknown number, and he's like, hey, this is Premier Doug Ford. And I was like, holy fuck.
Unknown.
Yeah, unknown number. And I was
so when you see that on the screen, what are you thinking? Like,
yeah, I'm like, this is an air duct cleaning service call. You know what I'm saying? I was ready to hang up on him.
Sure. Or CRA claiming I'm doing some illegal fraud.
Yeah, or I want a free cruise or some shit.
Or those are underrated.
Yeah,
cruises. Summertime's around the corner. Jeez.
Legit. Especially those free ones, man. Those scams. Fuck, give me your credit card.
Oh, please.
Yeah, so he called me and he was just like, listen, I'm doing this freaking the election. Like, it's tough. Like, I'm freaking busy. Like, I know you want to take a picture and all that. And he was like, you got to understand, I can't do it. And I was like, I get it. He's like, until the election's over. When the election's done.
Until these elections over.
Yeah, well, because he was kind of like, listen, he's like, I can't even go for dinner without people being like, look, this guy eating, can't do his job,
Yeah.
So he's like, I don't know how it's going to look with you. I was like, we got to attack those young voters, man. Fucking take some pics. The young people will love it. They'll see that you're, for the comedy and the youth or whatever, right? And he was just like, listen, keep doing what you're doing. Love it. It's funny. Love the entrepreneurial mindset you have in the scene or whatever. Post-election, follow up, and we'll try to do something. So I'll do that, and we'll see what happens.
It's crazy how the election process is and how that affects decisions from politicians, right? Like, mind you, if we were not in an election, you would have had that collab already. You're seeing a lot of things change when it comes to policies. Like, I know, no mask mandates now.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
They're returning bumper car stickers, the payments for that. And I wouldn't say a lot of it is for show, but it showed just how strategic things are.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And so when you're impersonating a guy like Doug Ford, do you ever feel that, I wouldn't say it's like a pressure, but do you ever feel like you're kind of interfering in that process or hindering him in a way?
I mean,
altering views? Like, how does that?
I don't know, because I've tried myself to be strategic about it as well. Like, because I don't want people to come at me for my personal political views as Mark the comedian, and I don't want people to hate the character I'm doing because it's a conservative and they don't vote conservative. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I want them to the point is to disconnect from it, and I'm playing this character that I invented out of Doug that's the personal side of him that I think he is at his cottage or in his backyard having a couple beers, right? So I try to disconnect from that, and I hope I don't interfere, but if anything, I feel like it draws some awareness. I don't know if it's positive or negative. I've never thought about that.
Well, you hear the phrase, all publicity is good publicity.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Especially being a comedian, an actor, you're taking risks daily.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, when it comes to his standpoint, I like to think it's more positive.
Right.
When you mentioned like it helps with connecting with the youth,
yeah,
I think that's a good thing, right? Someone that's in the culture of comedy that can have a laugh. I think when you're able to laugh at some of the tougher things at life,
of course,
it goes down much smoother.
Yeah,
right.
And I politically, for just a split second, I think it's both Doug and Justin or any politician throughout the pandemic, like, no matter how they would have handled it, anybody in power would have been run through the fucking coals.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know how they handled it and dealt with it. I mean, I know they made a good chunk of change on that shit, but personally, you can't judge these guys too harshly. Like, sure, Trudeau made a few offside calls, and I was like, brother, I don't know what you're doing now. But and I think the whole country agreed with that side. I think that even liberals were like, what's this guy doing? So, but can't judge them too harshly for the shit that they did throughout the pandemic. And I mean, it was funny on the call. I was just like, I don't know why you're stressed out, man. Like, you got it in the bag. And he was like, oh, I appreciate that. And then I sent him a text. I'm like, bro, you're going to crush this guy. Now, here's the thing. I'm not like for or against. I feel like there should be a joint party. Like, let the liberals, let the liberals handle the arts. Let the conservatives handle the finances. Like, whatever, right? There's got to be, some people are better at handling things than others, right? Yeah. And we need both. We can't just have one. So, but this Stephen Del Duca guy, like, it's just...
It's crazy. It's
like
crazy.
A serial killer.
To be honest, I haven't been that tapped into the race right now and what's going on, but I completely agree. I always like to say if you're completely for one side or radically for one position, that's an issue.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Have you ever met like a strictly conservative person? I'm like, there's no way you agree on every single policy of this side. It's humanly impossible.
Yeah, dude. I always relate this back to the U.S. Like, if you go to the States, it's like, my dad votes blue. My granddaddy votes blue. We're fucking blue till we die. And it's just like, they don't give a fuck.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's we're voting blue, and you're being born into this blue culture, right? Like, it's fucked,
It's
dude.
Tribalism is what it is. It doesn't matter. Like, they could, honestly, deep down, they could disagree with the policy, but because it's in their family, because it's in their tribe, they got to vote for it, right?
Yeah.
And that's a crazy thing.
I mean, we're not that far into it, Canadians. Like, but there's some like really, really conservative people. Like, for example, my dad, like he'll always be like I'll joke and be like, I'm voting NDP this year. And he's like, if you vote NDP, he's like, get the fuck out of my house. You know what I mean? Like, and like, would he actually kick me out of the house? Like back in the day when I was in there? Yeah. No, but he's just sort of like, don't do that.
Like he's not serious, but he's serious.
He's serious.
Yeah.
He's like, please, for the love of God, don't vote that. But in the end of the day, vote how you want to vote.
For sure.
And then you ask him who he voted for, and he'll never tell you. You're like, what the fuck?
It's like, fuck, man. Stop playing with me, bro.
Yeah,
What's going on, man? Fuck. Yeah, man. We're in a strange space right now when it comes to politics. But I'm glad people like you are bringing light or some comedy to these issues. Shout out to Austin too. I like that collab you guys got going, man.
Yeah, I mean, we have to, bro. It's like you don't laugh through these times. It's, like sometimes me and Austin joke around. We're like, we're doing God's work out here, guys.
I mean,
you know what I mean? Like,
I feel like you have that phrase, everyone deserves a laugh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I completely resonate with that. Right?
Yeah.
I think that, like I was saying before, when you can go through life and just laugh at the little things, like you stub your toe. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
You get a flat tire. Yeah. If you could find some way to find some humor in that, it makes it go a lot easier, right?
Man, and I mean, not to jump into a hot topic, but like that's why cancel culture drives me nuts so much. And it's like everyone deserves a laugh. Everyone deserves to be laughed at as well. We're all here to be laughed at, laughed with. It's all to just make light of the situation. And sometimes people forget that and they go, oh, well, you made fun of me. And it's like, okay, but we're making light of these issues that you have and that everybody has. Everyone's got their own issues. And we're all here to laugh at it. Like at funerals, we should remember, laugh about the good time, this sort of thing, right? It's like how we cope with things. So when people hold comedians up to this standard that politicians have where they could fucking change laws or invent laws to change the way we live, that's different. Yeah, hold that accountable. Sorry. Brother, we're fucking out there just telling jokes. We don't give a fuck about any of this. Like we a lot of the times, like I'll put my personal views aside and make a joke just because I'm like, oh, this line is hilarious. It works on stage. I'll create this whole backstory that doesn't actually like align with what I think, but you're laughing. Yeah. And that's why I'm fucking here. You know what I mean? It's like for you to laugh. So
you're bringing happiness to a lot of people's lives.
Yeah.
And then the good thing about what you're doing is you're touching people that you may not even know you're touching. Obviously, you have an audience in that sort of manner. But yeah, I like what you said, though, too, about the funeral aspect, man. I think sorrow and humor is an extremely thin line.
Oh yeah.
Some of the best memories and jokes I've had are at funerals. And that's the crazy thing about it, man. And I like just the fact of talking to comedians, especially like you, because you have that positive, obviously comedic mindset when it comes to a lot of issues in life, man. And bringing it back to cancel culture.
Yeah.
I want to ask, how long have you been a comedian for?
I've been doing stand-up since I went to that Humber comedy show.
I was going to say...
Sorry, comedy show. Humber comedy program.
Yeah.
In 2010.
About 12 years?
Yeah, like 10, 12. I don't count those 2 years and the school program, you know what I mean? And that's just for me. That's just me not wanting to age myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say about 10 years.
You look young, man. Shit.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say about, 10 to 12 years.
10 to 12?
Yeah.
So at what point would you say cancel culture really impacted that comedic space? Was it since you started, or did it have a significant...
What was the big one that really started to shift things? I think it was Louis C.K., right?
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
I think that was the big
one.
Like, well, here's the thing.
16, 17?
Yeah, but that was sort of like the Me Too movement at its height, and that sort of collided Me Too and then cancel culture, and then it was just sort of like, if you've ever said anything fucked up, you're going down, right? Whether it has anything to do with it. And like he obviously did something, right? I know it didn't say something, but then it was Chappelle, and they were just like, we're just going after comics, and then the pandemic was coming, so like, I don't know, this Twitter police,
don't get me started on that, man.
Right, it's all the same. It's just like fuck the Will Smith slap thing. I was on Twitter, bro. It's like everybody was just saying dumb shit and just being like, you can't laugh at this, can't laugh at that. I'm like, no. See, once you start shackling what we can laugh at, like, you
can't police that.
No, you can't police it. And I even get upset with, like, there's certain sides of like the BLM movement where people are like, well, no one's allowed to say this. And I'm like, I agree. no one should say that, but people say it. You know, people drop the M-word in their canoes in the middle of the lake that are racist. No one's there. Like behind closed doors, people are saying offside things all the time.
Yeah.
Regardless of, you know, what movement it is and where you align, right? So
yeah, it's for in regards to that BLM movement, being a black person myself, I could tell you that whole thing is fraudulent. It started off with great intentions, but it got hijacked by, and I think the root cause of it all was just money. But that when you look at it now, that impact made nothing. Like it had zero effect on how policies are made and how people are governed and how society looks at black people still to this day. So I like what you said there. I think a lot of it is performative, but you can't police these things.
No,
you can't police these things, and it's stupid. But when you're talking about comedy, this is a space you're being vulnerable at, but you're also making light of certain issues. So that, for instance, Dave Chappelle, you know, a guy's on stage, a guy walks up to you, tries to slap you. I mean, now you have other people in the stands of other comedy shows thinking, all right, if that guy says something that offends me, I have the right to do that now too.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what's so effed up about this situation. So I mean, I want to ask you as a comedian, how do you navigate that now?
Thankfully, I'm a very big individual.
So honestly, yo, when you walked in, I'm like, damn, I didn't know he was that tall. Shit.
Oh,
I'm 6'2", bro. Yeah. Shit.
You know, it's so funny. So many people say that to me all the time. They'll meet me and be like, dude, I thought you were like 5'5". I don't know why they think that. It's because I'm fat, I guess, or I wear tracksuits. I don't know, but people think I'm short as fuck.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not afraid to hear. Now, on one side, I don't really say anything that's that far off to one side that's really, really offensive. I don't really do that. But on the other side, it's like, if you're going to attack me, like, what are you, fucked? Like, it just doesn't make any sense for someone to do that. Even Will Smith, like, this guy's out of his fucking mind.
Yeah.
And it's like, you've clearly lost the battle. And dude, okay, I'm going to say something that will probably cancel me right now. But I had so many people arguing with me, being just like, yeah, well, fuck, they're like, if he was, they're like, if Chris Rock was white, would this have happened? Right? And I was like, and then people would go, and if that wasn't Will Smith, and if Will Smith was with someone else, I'm like,
the what ifs.
Who gives a fuck? Right? And it would drive me nuts. And I was just like, if Will Smith, if there was a white guy, for example, I'm like, I started playing these what if games with everybody. I'm like, if that was a white guy, let's say Will Smith was white, slapped him, and he won the Oscar after that, everyone would be like, if that was a black man, he would have stripped him from the Oscar. They would have kicked him out right away. Right? I'm like, we could play what ifs all day long. And in the end of the day, it doesn't fucking matter. Right? You cross a line. It's just a simple abuse. Fuck, if I slap you right now, fuck, I'm going to get arrested.
Crossing a line.
I'm going to this guy will beat the shit out of me. We'll call the cops. I get an assault charge. Like,
something's going to happen.
Something's going to happen. Sure. You'll kick me in the face. And it's just like, I just don't understand. Now, obviously, I'm trailing off quite a bit. But bring that back to comedy. It's a place of free speech, and I feel like that's the core of it. Yeah. And people need to be able to remove themselves from the situation and understand why we're here. You're at a comedy club. You're here to laugh. He's a comedian. He was there to make you laugh. Those jokes were pre-written. And we can get into the nitty-gritty of the whole thing on why you shouldn't have fucking slapped him. And do I think he should have won the Oscar right after that and get a standing O? Fuck no. But I mean, the Oscars, the acting industry, all that, it's so politically charged on its own anyways that it's like, it's tough for any of us to really comment on that. In the end of the day, you boil it down to, he slapped somebody for a joke. You've lost it. He wasn't present for that. So, I mean, one more thought I had with taking yourself out of the situation, and I think it's important to laugh at all of it, and people get too offended, like with the Chappelle stuff. The trans community was upset.
Yeah. And
I was just like, he's basically saying everyone is included in everything. Everyone wants to be inclusive. If you're a part of that community of regular life, humanity, and people being included in everything, everyone's getting made fun of. Everyone's the butt end of the joke. You got to take the jokes as well. We take the jokes, you take the jokes, we all take the jokes,
yeah.
Right? And when my nonna passed away, one of my grandmas passed away a couple years ago, and
condolences.
Thank you. And we were over the casket looking. It was open casket. We were looking at my nonna, and we started dying. Like, we were laughing because they fucked her makeup up, and like her makeup looked all fucked up, and we're like, my dad's just standing there like,
We pay for this?
Yeah, he's like, who did her hair like this? What the fuck is? And he's like, why is she wearing this? And and then he's arguing with my grandfather, who's like, he's like, who gives a shit? Like, I can't even think. Like, I'm so mad. And he was crying, right? And everyone's crying. And me and my brother are laughing so hard. We're like, if she was here right now, she'd be like, who did my hair like this? What a fucking disaster. Yeah. Like, I can't believe you let them put lipstick on that's like over my lips. And like, you know, like,
I need a refund.
Exactly, right? So, and we laughed. And we're like, and my uncle and my grandfather were so angry that we were laughing. They're like, this isn't the time for that. I'm like, but it is.
Exactly.
It is. We're celebrating life. We know how she would be, and we were imitating her on what she would say because she was a very outspoken, like, you know, old school. Like, I don't know if you know old school comedy, like Don Rickles, like that kind of shit, like Rat Pack back in the day, like just roasting people. That was my name, just roasting everybody. And I'm like, we're roasting her right now, like, doing her voice, and like we were dying, and we're like,
that's what she would have wanted, though.
Yeah, she she would want us to be happy in this moment. In the end of the day, nothing we can say or do right now is gonna change the fact that she's dead. And I even got into it with some family members because I did her eulogy, and the whole eulogy I impersonated her the entire time. I would be like, and I would point people in the audience and roast them in her voice, buddy. I had the whole church just dying of laughter, right? Yeah. And I was laughing too. And then you get choked up a little bit. But my grandfather and some of my relatives were like, you piece of shit.
No way.
How could you? And I'm like, what do you want me to do? Stand up here and go, my nonna was born in Cassino, Italy, and she had 4 cows and 3 rabbits, and she was a farmer. Like, who fucking cares? She came over in 1951. Who gives a shit?
Sounds like the plot of Godfather.
Exactly. We know, right? Everyone knows this. We're here to celebrate her character and how much we're going to feel empty for that character. And, you know, I paid homage to the whole, you know, that type of woman that is leaving us, like the matriarch of, like, back in the day, buddy, she slaughtered her own animals, farm to table shit, like shit. That's
crazy.
Shit that, like, you know what I mean? If you were like, Mark, kill that chicken, we're going to eat it tonight, I'd be like, I really don't want to kill this chicken. Yeah. Whereas my nonna would be like, oh, that's your favorite chicken?
Oh, cool.
Sick. Snap its neck. We're going to eat it. This is a gift. And you're like, what? Like, so that's a just generation of people that are no longer going to exist. So, looping this all back. Looping this all back.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Even in the toughest moments, the only thing that gets you through those is laughing. So if you just can't take shit too serious. And I just tried to prove that by saying I was making fun of my grandmother at her own funeral. I guess I don't know if that's.
I completely agree, man. I completely agree. You know, when you take things serious, you add stress to yourself, and life is just too short.
Yeah.
You know, you need a laugh. There's a lot of things in our day to day, and your day to day, and my guy's day to day that happens, and sometimes you just gotta laugh it off. Not even sometimes, all the time.
All the time.
Because the moment you take things serious or too serious, bad things normally happen.
Yeah.
I'm running it or circling it back to just policing things, right? Mm-hmm. Policing free speech. That's the dumbest thing I've heard, period. Yeah. I think in terms of cancel culture and what's going on, it is a terrible thing that's happening, right? Because a lot of people don't understand. If you're a part of cancel culture, there will be a point where you get canceled yourself too.
100%.
Cancel culture it doesn't exclude you, right? It doesn't pick sides. It encompasses everything. And if you say one thing that's off the rails, bam, you're done. That, to me, that's just stupid. We're in a liberal country. We're in Canada, right? And to even think that it's occurring here on Twitter, freaking on all these platforms, I'm like, bro, at what moment just do we say this is enough?
Yeah. And, you know, I have a lot of issues with that where it's like they're policing certain things where the conversation can't even be had anymore. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I always reference that one teacher who got canceled. I don't know if you remember that teacher. He got canceled because he was saying that they shouldn't teach multiple genders and transgender to toddlers in, like, early elementary school.
Was this in Ontario?
I think so. Yeah. It was Ontario.
It rings a bell. It rings a bell.
So he was just saying, he was like, I'm not against the transgender community or LGBTQ2+ or whatever the whole acronym is. I apologize that I don't know the whole acronym. But he goes, I just don't think that, you know, these kids don't even know who they are, what they are, or anything. Yeah. He's like, they're learning how to fucking spell.
I don't know how to walk properly.
Yeah. And then he went off about, like, the curriculum needs to be changed in general. We don't know how to do our taxes. They don't teach you how to do your taxes. They don't teach you how to do basic finance and, like, home living and how to just survive as an individual on this planet. And you want to just say, oh, before we update the entire curriculum, teach them transgendered and multigendered at 2 years old. And he lost his job for that. I'm like, he's just trying to create the discussion when you can't even be like, let's have a conversation to open up about progress. Like, he's just saying, if we're going to talk about progress, we have to talk about both sides and the pros and cons. You can't even have a fucking chat about it. And you just go, you said that. You're done.
You're done.
You're what the fuck are you doing? Like,
Expelled.
Lose your jobs. Like, this guy lost his fucking job over that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, he's just saying, hey, maybe we should think about this. And you went, oh, he said this. That means he's anti this, anti that.
Yeah.
Pro this.
First thing they do is label you. Because it's the easiest way to exclude someone. Yep. It's the easiest way to get someone canceled. Label him a colorist, a racist, a sexist, whatever it may be.
Every ist. All the ists.
I had I went to University of Alberta out west, right?
Oh, nice.
Majored in political science. So everything we're talking about right now, I love it because it's important and it matters now, right? Mm-hmm. And I had one teacher, first day of class, she's like, listen, in this class, there's going to be no use of isms. When it comes to debate, you can't use any type of ism on this panel.
Yeah.
Right. And right away that struck me because I'm like, the first thing people love to do is label people.
Yeah.
Whenever you're in an argument, oh, you're this, you're that. Maybe I'm not.
Yeah.
But you like to assume I'm this just because I made one statement. Because if you say one thing, it automatically equates to you being that, and that's the problem with the time we're in. And it's like it all circles back down to free speech, right? Yeah. And to circle it back now again to comedy, like you want to be able to speak freely.
Absolutely.
What's the worst thing I think a comedian can encounter is having to alter your script or your preparation to cater or to not offend someone or to and I had this debate with one of my homies the other day. I'm like, is there a boundary with comedy? And I want to ask, what do you think about that?
I don't think there should be, and I fight family members about this all the time. I'm like, nothing is offside. Now, the harsher the word or harsher the topic, the harder it is to pass, right? For example, I'm trying to think of a joke off the top of my head that someone famous did.
Take your time.
I'm going to find one. I don't want to use Louis C.K. because people are going to be like, you're pro Louis C.K.
Oh, yeah,
Cancel him. He's pro Louis C.K.
This episode is going to get taken off Spotify.
I'll use Louis C.K. He has a joke where he drops the N-word with a hard ER like multiple times in the bit. Now, it's a great joke, and he gets away with it because of how good. And Chris Rock helped him write the joke and all this kind of stuff. That doesn't make it right, per se. And this was 2012. 2014, somewhere in there, and he gets away with it because the joke is amazing. Now, I'll paraphrase the joke. I'm not going to say it. Relax. But like he goes, I hate when people say the N-word, and then he goes, I don't mean, and then says the actual word. He's like, I mean the N-word, and he goes, like on CNN, they'll always be like, oh, so and so caught for saying the N-word. He's like, and then you go, the N-word. Oh, and then you say it out loud or you say it in your head. He's like, fuck you, don't put the onus on me. He's like, you take ownership. You want to say the word, you say the word. Don't put it in my head and make me say it. And then all of a sudden, I become a racist because of you. Like, whatever, right? Yeah. And has this whole, but he does it way better than obviously I'm doing it. But he talks about it and it does so well. And he does it in black audiences and people love it. And so basically high risk, high reward with material. So, if the only thing is it's hard to try material with high risk because obviously it's going to eat shit for a long time before it gets good or you've crafted it to be good, So like, I know a lot of people that are like, rape jokes, cancer jokes, not allowed. And I'm like, yes, they are. You know what I mean? Like, and I think they are if they're done well.
Yeah.
Everything is done. Like Bernie Mac said it, man. It's not about what you say. It's how you say it. It's not about what you do. It's how you do it.
Yeah.
So if you can do it, you're the king, man. Like, that's what I mean. Like,
high risk, high reward.
High reward. If you can make a rape joke that is funny, you won.
And again, these are topics that are on thin ice. Right, these are on thin ice, and I mean, obviously, if you're gonna perform a joke in that manner, you want to have that scripted, articulated well. You want to have it rehearsed extremely well, of course. But I'm on the same page as you. I don't think that there should be barriers or boundaries in comedy. I think it does a disservice to the industry as a whole because
Absolutely.
you want to go to places and just feel free to express yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You want to step into a comedic venue and know that that comedian, and don't get me wrong, I don't mean it in the sense where you're intending to harm someone or intending to particularly attack a certain group and make light of humor or light of comedy. I think there's a difference. I think when you're going to a venue and performing and trying to attack a group to roast them for whatever it may be, I think there's a difference between that and then just making comedic jokes about every group.
Of course.
Right? If you target one specific group, then I'd say, okay, maybe there's a problem there.
Of course.
Consistently.
And here's the thing. You hit it on the head. It's intention. Intention is all of it, right?
Yeah.
And to me, and the way I view it with all comics, I think, most of them, have the intention to go up there to make you laugh. It's not, no one is, if they make a cancer joke, they're not saying that cancer isn't serious and that your person or you who dealt with cancer is less than. It's not what we're saying. We're making fun of the whole thing. Like, the intention is to make you laugh about these serious issues and serious topics and not take it so seriously. Yeah. Because like you said, how short is life? Dude, you want to, buddy, watch a Neil deGrasse Tyson documentary, bro, and like the universe, and you just sit here and go, bro, this guy's saying that planet Earth is like a pebble on a beach that's like 120 kilometers long. It's like, brother,
it's nuts.
This whole thing doesn't matter.
That's nuts.
Right? Like, or it does. But in the end of the day, you're going to sit here and try and ruin people's lives that are so short, all because one guy said one word, or he thinks a certain way. It's like, you should be striving for progress, not revenge, right? And I get in that argument with people all the time. It's just like, well, no, you should go through the suffering that my people suffered. Like, Jewish people say that to me sometimes. We get in these, like, they'll be like, well, until you go through the suffering my people didn't. It's like, are we going to go anywhere with that attitude? With that mindset that you need to go through what I went through or have the history that I went through for progress? It's like, no, then we're in a vengeful state. Yeah. And it's going to be a circle.
Cyclical.
It's cyclical, right? When you want to push it forward. Not everyone thinks that way, unfortunately. And I do think that majority of the world is stuck 100 years ago because, you know, it's unfortunate.
It's tough. But that's the times we're in, right? Comedy's a very, I wouldn't even call it volatile. It is a high risk industry, right? It's an industry that's not guaranteed. You know, you can say you're going into comedy, doesn't mean you're going to be the next Chappelle.
Of course.
You know,
90% of them don't ever get there.
Exactly. Yeah. And, you know, you mentioned your grandma being a comedian herself. Maybe not a professional one, but she had that in her blood. I want to ask, like, where did it start for you? Was it from those influences, or did you always want to be one? Or
I never really, like, it's tough. Like, I never thought I was going to be in comedy. Like, I was always the class clown kid, like that typical story. I was getting kicked out of class in elementary school, and like, you know, within 2 hours, they're like, hey, you two can't sit together. Like, so I'd always be secluded in the back by myself. You know, socially distancing in elementary school.
You were doing the 6 feet before 6 feet was a thing,
right? I'm a trendsetter. So so I didn't really get into it, and I never knew kind of what I wanted to do. And I always felt like when I was a kid, I was always like, okay, I feel like what I'm supposed to do is gonna like find me. Like, I'm gonna have that moment where I'm going to be like, oh, yeah, that's what I'm doing. Like, you're going to feel it, right?
Epiphany.
I'm hitting all the metal in this fucking room.
Yo, honestly, every time I come to the studio, I hit my head like 3 times on this lamp, maybe once on that, and I probably bang my tape. You're not alone. Trust me.
Right?
It's my home studio, and I still bang my head. Like, come on.
Jesus. But yeah, like I went to, before I went to Hummer, I went to Seneca, and I was like, okay, let me do this like entry-level college program. It links to university after 2 years, whatever. It's general, so let's see what happens. And then, I was just constantly writing down funny ideas all the time. And like, I really looked up to like, you know, Mike Myers and Jim Carrey and Chris Farley and like that era of people. And my family was always into like Robin Williams and that whole thing.
Oh,
and
I love Robin, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, and obviously my grandmother into the old school, like old Vegas group of people and like really way back comics. So like I was always around that kind of stuff, and I would always impersonate people because I was just really good at, you know, impersonating someone. So like I lived in a sort of like a court cul-de-sac type neighborhood, and like everyone was from a different place. You know, we had Russians, Pakistanis, Africans, Jamaicans, you name it. Like it was almost like a United Nations court. And we would always do these big barbecues where like we would trade dishes and this sort of thing. Like my mom would give them lasagna, they'd give us biryani, like that kind of thing,
That's
right?
beautiful.
Yeah, it was great. And like I would impersonate people. Like, for example, my neighbor from Pakistan, I would impersonate him back to him, okay? And he would be like, oh my God, I'm not going to do the voice. And I'll get into why I'm so mad about cancel culture because I can no longer do accents.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You'll
so
get canceled for that.
it sucks. It doesn't make sense. So I would do his accent, and he'd be like, you have to call my family in Pakistan, and would have me call his family in Pakistan, like crank calling, pretending to be him. And like, brother, his whole family would be dying. He's like, you sound just like us. I don't know how you're doing this.
No way.
Right? So same with all the things. So like, and I would, when I started doing stand-up early on, like, again, I had Asian neighbors that would babysit me before, like, I'd get off the school bus and I'd be hanging at their house until my parents got home. Filipinos, you name it. So like, I can do every accent you can think of very well. And I would bring that on stage and be like, man, I used to go trick-or-treating. You know what I mean? My Asian neighbors would watch me after school. They knew that I never had a pencil case or a geometry set. So like on Halloween, she'd be like, here's a calculator. That's
crazy.
Right? And be like, here's pens and pencils. Like, you need it. And like other kids would be getting like Coca-Cola cans and shit and whatever and bags of chips. So, and I would do the voice. Now, if I do these voices, bro, people want to kill me. I do them in Alberta, crushes. But you know what I mean?
Jeez, yo, it's a different environment.
When I do it in Canada, Texas.
We will go there. Please.
Yeah.
I used to, I live there, man. Shit.
Yeah.
I know exactly. Actually, one of the people you do collabs with, Nemo.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he had a show out there, man. We had a couple mutual friends, and I saw him out there. And,
nice.
It's funny because, you know, different crowds elicit different responses.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you perform better in different areas in the city, in the GTA, or out west, like, or anywhere you've been? Like, where do you feel like you elicit the best response? Or does it even matter?
I mean, to me, I travel so much that, like, I sound like I'm boosting myself here. Well, like, my home club is Absolute Comedy in Toronto, and, like, I love that the most because that Midtown is very diverse, like a Yonge and Eglinton area.
Yeah.
So you're going to get a lot of people. But honestly, man, like, I perform well when it's all one group in one place. For example, like, if I go to Markham and play an all-Asian room, or like the Nubian room in Toronto, all black room, like, I don't know why, I just do much better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I go in Alberta, all Hicks.
Yeah.
I crush. Right? It's just like, so, and again, if I go to Markham and I do an Asian accent, I am destroying the place.
You're killing.
It's only white women that are freaking out, that go, you piece of shit, you should be canceled.
It's a lot of Karens.
A lot of Karens out there, the Karen community.
It's terrible, man.
And it's like,
Terrible.
I again, that's where the cancel culture comes in, where I go, that me doing the accent is the intention to make you laugh, not at them. The joke isn't, Asians sound like this, ching chong ching. I'm not doing that, right? That's not the same thing as me putting a voice to this person who sounded like that. And I'm not putting them down. They're not the butt end of the joke. I am. So it's like, you know, I had a lot of people, they'll write me emails quoting my material, sending me recordings.
That's crazy.
Being like, you see this line here? I'm like, yeah, you see the line before it? Like, you know what I'm
Context.
saying? You see how I'm setting it up? You see the context? I'm not sitting here going, you know, doing this shit and like trying to be like, I'm not saying this is a one-dimensional culture. I'm saying I grew up with these people. They grew up with me, vice versa. We shared cultural experiences, and people need to know about that.
You're making light of it. You're a storyteller.
Making light of it. Storytelling.
Storyteller.
What's a good story without impersonating all the people in the story?
It's terrible.
I can't be like, so my dad was standing there going, hey, man, and then do my mom be like, and then my mom chimed in and was like, yeah, I agree. Like, if I put voices to these people, it's a better story.
100%, man. 100%.
I feel like we're going to have no clips from this because of what I'm saying.
Please, no, we got like, I can count like 3 or 4 obviously off the top. But I think, growing up in Canada is a blessing, man. Especially in the amount of diversity you have. Like, you're telling me you're in a court with Africans, Asians, Middle Easterns. Like, that's special. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, it plays into a lot. And you can probably sit here and say that's a big reason, or they played a big influence into why you chose comedy, right? And you mentioned you went to Humber. I went to Humber. I'm actually at Humber right now. I'm taking acting for film and television.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm in my first year program. Were you Humber North or South? Do you remember?
I was Humber Lakeshore.
Lakeshore, right? South.
South,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, do you remember what building? Was it the Birmingham?
Yeah, so now it's the Birmingham building.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
So my first year we were at Lakeshore campus, like Building D or whatever, I think.
Yeah, I think I know what
It
you're
was
talking about.
just looked like a house.
Yeah,
And then they moved to Birmingham in my second year there.
yeah.
And then I went for a third year for like this postgraduate like script writing thing and stuff, which is cool. But yeah, like if it wasn't for them, man, like Jesus Christ, I forgot we were talking about that. A buddy of mine, so my dad was very like, if you don't go to school, like this isn't happening. Like you're like on your own type shit. Now, would he have actually kicked me out? Probably not. But he was just like, you have to get some sort of post-secondary education. And I was like, I'm going to drop out of Seneca. I'm going to go to Second City, do the Mike Myers thing. I was researching how he did it and how all these like other famous guys did it. I'll probably start doing stand-up. But like I had no, like stand-up for me was never an option. I was like, I'm never going to do that. Like I wanted to do the acting and the sketch and SNL, Mad TV, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And my buddy comes home one day from school and he was like, yo, I saw this ad on the bus. It said like Humber Comedy. It's like a comedy writing and performance program. I'm like, unreal. I applied the next day, had to audition, got in, and then switched to Humber. And they force you to do stand-up. And then
Like right away, as soon as you
like,
enter the program?
as soon as you enter the program, like you work on your 5-minute set type thing for a couple months. And then in like December, everyone does their first show kind of thing. And as soon as I got off stage, I was like, this is it. Like I found it. You know what I mean? Like, and that was like, I had that eureka moment or whatever. The light bulb went off and I had that fucking good feeling after. I was like, okay, fine. I found what I think I'm supposed to do here. Yeah. Like it connected and everything else we were doing, like acting and sketch and all this kind of stuff. It was fun and good, but it wasn't like, it didn't, hit. Like my first set was incredible. And then my second set was just dog shit, like just silence.
Yeah, I want to ask, like, you had some trash. I'm guessing you had some trash sets, right?
Of course.
Does one recount where you just like, yo, I never want to experience that again? Like,
God,
was there a turning point for you?
So many, dude. Oh my God. Like so many.
Yeah.
But like one that really just, it pisses me off to this day. Like I've had some where, people are yelling at me and like the whole time and that's like, are plastered drunk and like you can't get you're performing for an hour and like you can't get through the show without this same table throwing shit at you and yelling. Like there's been those, but one that like just so my dad, his friend ran this big company. It's a big truck rental company, okay, and like used car rental, right? There's only like 3 in the country, so it's a short list. And they go, hey, we always have a comedian come every year to our Christmas party. Would your son want to do it? Now, I'm like 3 years in. Okay, I've never done a corporate in my life. And for those of you who don't know, to do corporates, you got to work up quite a bit. You have to have like 30 to 45 minutes of clean material that HR won't get mad about. And it's just like it treads the line. Like, you know what I mean? You got to hit that 8 to 10 year experience mark. At the time, I didn't want to say no. And he was just like, last year we had Jeremy Hotz and the year before that, we had Jerry D and like big fucking names. And right away, I'm like, Dad, I'm not doing this. Like they use very polished individuals. They had a cancellation. They have no other choice. They were like, in the end of the day, we're not even going to do comedy entertainment anymore for the party. If he wants to, let him come and do it. So my dad, he's like, I've already locked in a contract with them. They're paying you very well. And it was like the most money at that point I made. I think it was like, I was 3 years in. I think it was like $1,200 or something for 45 minutes. And like at that point, I never even got paid to do stand-up yet. You know what I mean? So I was like, oh, fuck, my dad's like, this is a lot of money for you at this point in your career. He's like, you have no business making any money. You stink. So, well, like straight up, he was like, you're not there yet, right?
Yeah,
he's
yourself.
like, but put your best jokes together and do it. I get there, dude, it's like a Deerhurst resort, like fucking massive ballroom, like 100 to 200 people, big round tables. It's packed. They've been drinking all day. They golfed the day before. And there's this guy on stage who works for the company who is killing. Like he's standing at the podium getting all these laughs because he's part of the company. So he'll be like, yeah, just like Buddy's wife and like Bill's sister, and he's like all these local references to these people and they're dying. And then he sees me walk in, and I just got there, so like I wasn't going to perform for like another hour. And he goes, oh, fuck. Oh, okay. Your comedian's here. I don't know. He calls himself like the funniest guy in the world or something, which is not true. And and I literally get up there. I'm on my hands and knees, bro, like setting up my mic and like running a cable from their speaker to my shit and whatever. And I'm like, did you just introduce me? He's like, yeah, go ahead. Brother, I fucking ate shit with a spoon for the entire hour, like steady. No one even looked at me and registered. Like I said, thanks, good night, and no one even responded. Like by the end of it, they weren't even looking in my direction. Like
That's crazy.
And they voted it. So this is my dad being a dick. They voted on the weekend. They get a survey for what to do next year for their parties. They voted the comedy portion of the weekend the worst part of entertainment in their company's history, bro.
History. So, how long has this company been on for?
History. Like fucking 25 years. So they're like, out of every piece of entertainment you've ever done for our corporate events, this is by far the worst fucking event ever. They're like, and my dad literally showed me the email, and then they sent photocopies of the surveys, like digital copies of the surveys. My dad's like, read these. I'm like, why are you doing this? He's like, I want you to see how bad you are. He's like, these people said you sucked. I'm like, I did suck. I'm like, the guy fucking introduced me like an idiot. I'm like, it was a recipe for disaster. They weren't even ready. Or like, it wasn't set up for comedy, whatever. And he's just like, they voted you as the worst entertainment their company has ever brought in 25 years.
And so this is your third year starting in.
This is 3 years in.
This is 3 years in. How do you bounce back from that?
Oh, I was furious. I was like, dude, the whole car ride, my mom fucking drove me to the gig. Like, bro, that's how fucking like, so, because my mom had to go pick something up in that area. So she's like, let's go up early. I got to make a couple stops. I'm going that way anyways. I'm like, oh, sick. I'll save money on gas. So she drove me to the gig and watched the whole thing in the back of the room. And my mom, like by the end of it, dude, was sweating more than I was. She's like, that was torture for me. She's like, I just watched you suck a dick for 45 fucking minutes. Even more, like, and one of my best buddies came too. And like, so was my mom and my best friend, like just watching me just shovel it.
Tough system. Secondhand embarrassment is a real thing though.
Oh, 100%. I watch TV, I fucking start sweating. I'm like, I feel bad for this guy.
So obviously as a comedian, you've been in shows and you know, you're waiting to perform on a lineup, obviously, right?
Yeah.
You ever been in sets where the one before you just shit and like he's just terrible, doing terrible? Do you get that feeling then?
Yeah. Yeah. Like I'll be like, oh my God. Dude, I try my best not to watch shows because there's this thing, I don't know how to explain it. And I've tried to articulate this to other comics that I find so strange. Like I can't watch shows because we all started as an audience member first, right?
Yeah.
And I'll always be watching the show and feel myself transitioning mentally from a performer to an audience member. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'll be in the audience like, and then all of a sudden I'm laughing at their bits. I'm into the story.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh shit, I'm next.
I gotta perform.
And like to make that switch back to like, these are my jokes, this is what I'm doing. This is the energy and place I gotta be in mentally. So, yeah, buddy, I've been, I did the Nubian show and he's a really good friend of mine. I shouldn't even trash talk him. I'm not, but like he ate it so bad. Like they were throwing popcorn and like beer glasses at him and shit. Like
tomatoes,
like full blown beer bottles at him and shit. And I was like, and he wouldn't give up. He was just like, no, he was like, no, fuck you guys, man. I'm winning you back. And he's from the US, like, and he does comedy here and there all the time.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I'm not getting off stage. And then the host came on.
He's like,
who's a legend, like Kenny Robinson, like he's been in the scene for like 40 years, like he's the man. And he goes on and, you know, he's like old school, like he wears 3-piece suit on stage and shit. And he's like, you're done. And he's like, come here. And he like takes the mic. He's like, you're done. And he goes, no, man, I'm not, this isn't happening. And he goes, it's done. Shit. And then he goes, you know what? And then the host goes, you know what, guys? Give this guy one more joke and I'll stand up here behind him. And if he wins you back, I'll get off stage and he'll finish his set. Oh, shit. And they go, you guys good with that? They all clap. He literally stands behind him like this. Dude, within fucking 8 seconds, the guy goes, so you guys ever go to the zoo? Boo! Boom! And they fucking started throwing popcorn. Yeah. And he didn't say you ever go to the zoo, but like it was something like some setup. They were like, no, see you later.
It was a loss from dead. Yeah, no. Oh my god.
And I was next, and I was like, Dude, I was like, oh my God, dude, I'm freaking out.
Like that's the thing. The crowd is already at its peak. Like it's tense. It's riled up.
Yeah.
What are you thinking when you go on set next?
I was like, one guy came out to me, a good friend of mine. He's like, yo, think of it this way. He's like, you can't do worse than that. He's like, and they want to laugh. He's like, they're here to laugh. He's like, they didn't come here to boo people.
Yeah.
You know? And it was fucked up because the host of the show had a rant at the start being like, man, this show people used to fear coming on my show because if you sucked, you would get booed. He's like, and he told the audience, he's like, if people suck tonight, I want you guys fucking throw shit. Tell these motherfuckers they suck. And I was like, why are you doing that, man? Like, don't do that, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, he only has like 1 or 2 white guys on the show, and I was the white guy that night, and I was like freaking out because like it's obviously stressful in general to do shows where you're the only one on the show. And he's just like, you're next, man. You good? And he's calling me on stage. He's like on stage. He's like, hey, are you ready, white guy? He's like, our white guy's up next. Are you guys ready for the white guy?
Yeah.
And I was like, bro, don't do this. And like the guy next to me is like, you can't do worse. They want to laugh. He's like, you know, just do your shit.
Yeah.
So I went up there and I was like, man, my buddy didn't deserve that, guys. You guys are fucked. I'm like, what you guys don't realize, you're gonna forget about this tomorrow. He's gonna remember that forever.
The rest of his life, actually. Yo.
And every time we see each other, like I go to New York or New Jersey sometimes, and he's out there. And we always laugh about it. He's like, man, I'll never forget you followed that. And just
That's tough, man. Yeah, watching comics before performing, that was tough. Like I can completely relate to that. It reminds me of like when I used to hoop out west at U of A. I used to hate watching games before playing, right? So there's a women's team and our team, obviously. Women's team would usually play right before ours, and then we would go right after, right? So a lot of my teammates would obviously see like the first half and get changed and prepare for our game. I was very rarely out there to watch the women's game. And it's not that I didn't want to support them. I just like, I kind of experienced what you're thinking. Like I'm an attendee. I'm a guest here, but now I got to transition into now performing. I'm going to be on the court in about 45, 50 minutes. I got to be in that game mode.
Yeah.
I've already did my research. Yeah. I've already did my studying on what reads I have to make and what plays I have to make. I already did that. So now to be in the stands and then to it just felt weird to me.
No,
it felt extremely weird to me. I'm
100%.
Like, you know,
I'm always the guy pacing around in the back of the room, looking at my phone. And sometimes I'll just like, I'll be scrolling through Instagram, and if you look at me, I'm not even looking at anything. I'm just like occupying myself, so I'm not like freaking out or whatever, you know, and like
just taking up time.
Yeah. I'll have to like take like 4 or 5 random pisses and like.
Those pisses are they're mandatory. Those are essential.
Yeah,
those are for any performance. Those are essential.
And then you're like, oh my God, I'm dry. I'm dry. Yeah. So
I had a couple teammates. They had a ritual of taking like. I had 2 teammates that took a shit before every game.
Yeah,
like it was part of their schedule.
Yeah,
and if they didn't, they'd play terrible.
Yeah,
and you start to develop a routine after a while.
100%,
right?
Yeah,
I'm guessing you have one.
No, I mean I did my best. So like there was a time when I started, I'd wear the same shoes, and then there was a point where I'd wear the same shirt, and then there was a point where I'd always keep my set list in my upper chest pocket. Like if I was wearing like a collared shirt and there was like the pocket on your outside the dress shirt, so I'd like slide my set list in there. I'm like, okay, I'll remember it's right here, right? And then I was like, okay, I don't want to be, who's that athlete in the NBA who was like, he didn't have the proper,
kicks. Shoes?
It was the proper shoes, and then he played like shit, and he couldn't get out of it. And then his shoes fucked up, and then he never had the same shoes and never played well. I remember watching it. It was like about weird sports superstition. It was in that documentary at one point. But I was like, I don't want to be attached to anything. I want to be able to perform with any article of clothes on in any situation. If I arrive late, if I'm flustered, like whatever, right? I just want to be able to make sure that I don't have any crutch type thing. So, but yeah, I need water, and I got to chug a bunch of water. And if I can have a coffee right before, like an espresso or something.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I used to have the craziest superstitions, especially in high school playing basketball. I used to have to pull up both my socks twice, and it had to be like a certain angle and a certain amount of pull. Like I don't pull my shit up all the way to my knees, right?
Right.
I pull them twice, kind of like a little bit calmly on each side, and then I have like some of the best games of my life.
Yeah.
Shit like that.
I used to have a foul line routine when I was taking my foul line shot. Like I'd have to dribble it a certain way and like feel the ball a certain way.
Yeah.
And like line my fingers up in certain places and shit.
It helps.
Yeah.
Sometimes superstitions do help, but I agree with you when you say that it kind of becomes a crush because your whole performance, your value in this craft is determined on what you do.
Yeah.
You know, and
Man,
it's like, damn.
And it's only because, man, I saw a guy have like a full-on meltdown because after that corporate gig, I was like, this is never happening again. I'm doing corporates all the time. So like every time I'd call corporate comics and be like, I'm opening for you. Like I'm coming to do 5 minutes and like really see the corporate scene. So now I do them all the time and it's fine.
Dope.
But I saw a guy have, he didn't have his, it was a particular notebook that he would bring with him, right? And it was like a small notebook, and he would just jot down his set list and point for him notes. It was like one of those small little books, and he didn't have it. And he's like, oh my God, I forgot my notebook in my other car. I don't know what the fuck. Okay, what am I going to do? Okay. And like he started having a meltdown, and he couldn't perform. Like he freaked out and just was like, and then he was up there and like blanking, and he was, right? So it fucked up his whole mentality. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, I can't have that happen. So like, you know, then I would on purpose be like, I'm forgetting all my joke bag shit at home on purpose. I'm leaving it here. I don't give a fuck, right? And I would be like, and then I would put it on my phone. I'm like, I'm turning my phone off. Like I'm not writing down a set list.
Here.
I'm like, I gotta be able to click into it at any time. Yeah. So like, if you're like, hey man, go in the parking lot and go do 20 minutes, I can go out there and do 20 minutes. You know what I mean? Like just on the fly. So that I didn't have anything to fuck me up mentally.
It's like acting. Like being in this program has enlightened me in so many ways where I see a lot of my classmates, they'll try to look at the script right beforehand. And I used to do that too in my first semester. But then I'm like, listen, it's already here.
It's there.
I feel like I'm overstressing myself by having this script, you know, especially before mock auditions and things of that nature. I'm like, I already got it here in the bag. I'm a guy in this. I do this. So I don't need this thing. It's not necessarily a crutch, but it's like if I don't have it, I feel like, oh my gosh, like, okay, what's that line? I'm gonna blank here. I'm like, I'm all over the place, and that's when I'm like, no, I can't have that.
Yeah, it's all mentality, man. Like, and you know, there's sometimes, man, like some of my best shows are. That's why I say it's so much of a mental battle and struggle on its own.
Yeah.
To have these things that you rely on, you're just complicating it even more. And that's for me personally. Like I find if I'm not in the mood to go and make you laugh, and they'll know, right? Yeah. If you're not in a good mood and you're not having fun telling your jokes and wanting to be like, oh, you got to hear this story, like with that enthusiasm and that mentality, that energy you're giving off, they'll feel it and be like, yeah, something's wrong with this guy. And then all of a sudden the whole drive home, you're like, fuck, none of my jokes worked. It's like, well, you were fighting with your parents on the drive. You fucking were pissed off because you almost got in an accident. You rushed here, whatever. And like, you didn't get any sleep. You've been performing every day. You just need a break. You're mentally not in it. So of course, right? So you got to get yourself mentally in it. So it's like, I try to stay away from those.
Well, you know, I was keeping tabs on your schedule.
Nice.
And what's today? The 27th. You got a show coming up tonight, right?
Yeah.
Later this evening.
Yeah.
Where's that at?
Aurelia. I'm going to be in Aurelia tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, by the time this episode's out, obviously it'll have passed. But what's your schedule like moving forward? Where can the audience or where can guests see you coming up?
That's a good question.
You can get back to you can get back to you on that one, bro.
No, follow me at Not Marc-Anthony. I post all my schedules and stuff to the camera. Boom. Yeah. Follow me at Not Marc-Anthony, guys. That's my Instagram. I post everything all the time. I post every month. I'll post all the scheduled shows that I have for the month. A lot of stuff comes up sporadically all the time and on a whim too. So I'm always at Absolute Comedy Toronto. I'm always at the Corner Comedy Club in Toronto, Yuck Yucks Toronto. Nothing Fancy Comedy Club in Toronto, Comedy Bar Toronto. Those are like the main spots. SoCap Theater, a lot of good shows always in the city. So if you want to catch me working on some new shit or polishing the old shit,
dope.
That's where you can find me.
Dope. Well, Mark, I hate to wrap it up, man, but this has been a pleasure. I'm glad I can get you on the platform, bro. This is long overdue, but it's been an interesting conversation.
Yeah, thank you, bro. Thanks for having me. I apologize for crossing the lines.
We're literally crossing the line right now. No, I appreciate you. And, stay tapped in.
Love it.
We out.